welcome to today's webinar session. We thank you for your availability and really appreciate dedicating the next hour to hear from our esteemed colleagues and friends here at the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy. My name is Vazken and I work for Josoor Institute as Capability Building Manager. And Josoor Institute is actually the training and development arm of the SC, short for Supreme Committee. It is also a legacy element which will maintain its vision and mission towards 2022 and beyond. I'd like to also invite our colleagues and friends from the Sustainability Department, to which they will run this session and focus and give some insight on the strategy adopted, the different pillars of focus from the sustainable buildings to carbon neutrality, water, and of course share the key achievements of what has been going on in the past few years, current and future. I'd like to first invite our sustainability expert, Mr. Orjan Lundberg, who will be first heading the session and showcasing around 10 minutes with the slides prepared, and of course his colleagues, Mr. Shashi, Prakash and Dr. Talar, Sahsuvaroglu, on the next pillars also as well. We would encourage you sending all questions through the chat, so please be active in that, and we'll make sure that we will read all the questions and provide the proper answers. Mr. Orjan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vazken. Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be. I understand we have quite the international audience this time, and we're very happy to collaborate with Josoor Institute and with the Qatar mission in New York on this particular webinar. So I am going to give an overview of what the World Cup is all about, what we're trying to do for sustainability on a higher level. Talar will then give us specific updates against the particular environmental topics that we tackle in the strategy, and Shashi will take us on a deep dive into the world of carbon management and the World Cup. And we are happy to take any questions and discuss with you following our short presentations. I think we should be able to go through the pre-prepared material in 30-40 minutes or so. So let's go. What is the World Cup? I thought I might start with that because not everybody is crazy football fans like we are. So the World Cup is the biggest single mega sporting event in the world. It's played once every 4 years, and it is the purpose of the game is to crown the world champions of men's football for national teams. And the next edition will actually be played in Qatar next year in November and December 2022. There's actually, the World Cup has actually already started. So there's a massive and really long qualification tournament that has already started around the world to narrow down all the participating nations to 32 teams, which will be invited to come to Qatar to play the final tournament. And these 32 teams will play 64 matches over 28 days in an action-packed couple of weeks here in Doha and surrounds. One of the key things about this World Cup, if you remember, previous hosts have been Russia and Brazil, two very large countries. Now we're coming to quite a small country for the 2022 edition. So we actually have one host city this time around. So that means that all the action will be within the same city. And FIFA has told us that it's only happened one time before, that the World Cup was played in one city, and that was in the very first edition in 1930, where it was played in Uruguay with only 8 teams participating. And from what they've told me, actually all the teams traveled on the same ship, cruise liner from Europe to Uruguay to play those matches. So a bit of a different beast this time. The game has evolved, the world has changed. We will have 8 stadiums hosting 4 matches per day during the group stage. So there will be a very busy first 2 weeks, and then the knockouts start, and there will be fewer matches per day after that. We expect to have over 1.5 million visitors coming to Qatar during the time of the tournament. And given the population in Qatar at the moment is around 2.5 million, you can understand that that is quite a significant stress on all systems in Qatar: roads, hotels, airports, everything. So that should be something that we have been planning for a long time and preparing for a long time. But what that also tells us is that trying to manage and somehow reduce the environmental loads and the environmental impact becomes very critical in an environment like this. With 4 matches per day, in the beginning, we might actually have 150,000 people seeing football in different locations around the country per day. And when it is at its peak, we expect to have around 500,000 visitors in Qatar on the busiest days. So we have a couple of images here of the players, and this is obviously the meat of the action. This is what people care about the most and what people start talking about the most when the games are being played. But we also have a lot of other people that will come to the World Cup to make it happen. Obviously, all the fans, hopefully some of you on the call will pull on your jerseys and come to Qatar during this time, given that your team has qualified, which I'm sure they have a good chance to do. We also have a lot of officials that will come, and VIP delegations. It's a huge effort around that, with many heads of states, etc., coming to the country. We also have quite a large program from the what's called the commercial affiliates, in layman's term, it's sponsors of FIFA, that would have their own delegations and their own guests that they will bring in, which is also a massive apparatus around that. Then at the bottom left, we obviously have a huge amount of officials and workforce. And so we have the referees, for example, but we also have quite a number of temporary staff coming in from FIFA and from other contractors, and also from the volunteering would come around from all over the world as well. And not the least, we will have thousands of media representatives, journalists, and broadcasters, just to paint a picture of how massive this beast is to be hosted in a small country like Qatar. So, like I said before, with this comes a lot of responsibilities in terms of sustainability, which is what we are talking about today. And to be able to manage that, we as tournament organizers set out a couple of, statements that we wanted to work towards. So we believe that the FIFA World Cup is for everyone to enjoy. Doesn't matter if you have a disability or limited mobility, where you come from, what you look like, etc., etc. And we also believe that the workers delivering the FIFA World Cup should have decent working conditions and be treated fairly. We should not destroy the planet to celebrate the biggest sporting event in the world, and this is the focus of our discussion today. We also believe that our responsibility extends throughout our entire value chain, not just the matches themselves. I mean, this is a big thing, and there's going to be a lot of supply chain, for example. So we're doing a lot of work in that field to be able to extend these good practices that we are trying to do. And finally, we believe that the FIFA World Cup should leave a positive long-term legacy for the host country. And the colleagues that you have online today are all working with the host country, Qatar, to make sure that this happens. So based on these kind of belief statements, we were able to craft a sustainability strategy following these 5 kind of topics: economic, social, human, governance, and not least environmental. This sets out the work that we are undertaking to deliver this World Cup. This strategy is also perfectly aligned with the Qatari National Vision, which is a document that sets out where Qatar wants to be in 2030. And the World Cup 2022 is being used as a, should we say, a supercharger to get to the 2030 mission as such. Our sustainability strategy that is for the World Cup is available online. It's Qatar2022.qa sustainability. Full document is there. We have an executive summary for those that don't want to go through the nitty-gritty details. We have also published our first progress report, where we are explaining how we are doing against each and every initiative within the strategy, giving an update on what we have done. And so if the strategy is setting out what are we going to do, this progress report is sort of saying this is what we have done so far. And we are planning to release one of these progress reports every year to update our stakeholders on how we are progressing. The other thing I want to mention is that this sustainability strategy for FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 is the first strategy of its kind, in a sense, as this is the first time that the host country or the host nation has collaborated with FIFA and the local organizing committee to have a joint strategy. In previous events, it's been a FIFA local organizing committee strategy, which has very much been more focused on the event itself. We are hoping now, by joining forces, that we can deliver a sustainable event and also really focus on the preparations and the legacy piece, which is more of the responsibilities of the host nation. So as to give a snapshot on what is actually included in this sustainability strategy, under social, we talk about accessibility, inclusivity, health and safety, etc. We are talking in the human pillar about workers' conditions and workforce development. We're also talking about youth education and empowerment. Under environmental, which Dr. Talar will give us a detailed brief on in a minute, our topics are really sustainable building, greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution, waste, and water. In economic pillar, we're talking about the encouraging local business and innovation. We're also looking in detail on what we are going to do with all the tournament infrastructure after the games are finished. And finally, in our governance pillar, we are focusing on procurement and also in terms of transparency on our reporting to make sure that we keep our stakeholders up to date. As part of the transparency, we have also released a document that sets out exactly how we went about developing the strategy, which stakeholders we consulted with, which topics were included, and how we went about excluding certain topics, etc., also available on our website. So that is the overview of the World Cup and the sustainability strategy program for us. Now I will hand over to my colleague Talar, who will give you an update against the environmental priority areas. And Talar, you're currently on mute, so you need to press that.
I got so excited about speaking. I started speaking fast. So I also would like to say welcome on behalf of the sustainability team, also on behalf of Josoor, and we thank all of our participants who are here from all around the world. Thanks, Orjan, for setting the picture so wide. Sustainability, as you can see, is a lot of different factors included. What we're going to talk about today is just the sustainability part, an environmental sustainability part, and Shashi will talk to us about the carbon, as that's his expertise as well. So there's 5 pillars that fall within the environmental pillar, which talks about sustainable building, carbon neutral, air pollution, waste, and water. These are the 5 material pillars that were part of the stakeholder consultation and the resulting focus that was placed on what we're going to do as a World Cup here in Qatar. Orjan, please. So when we talk about sustainable buildings, so clearly we are building 7 full stadiums and renovating an 8th. So that means we have 8 stadiums that will be part of our tournament. We also have team-based training camps. And we also have a lot of other buildings that are going to be part of what we need to use when we're in the World Cup. So it's very important for us to be able to have sustainable buildings so that we don't have an overbearing impact. And so we can minimize the impact that we have on our environment. So as you may know, in Qatar, it's very important to conserve energy and water. We are a small nation, and we don't want to be leaving a very large impact. Environmentally speaking, we have all the work that we do goes through the ministerial permit requirements. We have almost filled in 1,000 permits in the time that we've been working on our stadiums. That's a lot of permits to process, but it also means that there's a very focused vision and detail that's given to everything that happens on our construction sites. So what are our key achievements for sustainable buildings? Well, the first thing is that for the buildings that we have in our stadiums, we have a system called Gsa Certification. Gsa stands for Global Sustainability Assessment Standard. It is a local and regional standard that is equal to some of the international ones that our audience may know, LEED or BREEAM. It's a way to assess the different criteria that you've considered in your design and construction against standards so that you can rate a building against another one. So which one has considered more sustainability criteria? These criteria are important in things like energy, water, materials that you use, distances you are from a subway, how much green space you have, what are the cultural factors that you're considering, how little are you disrupting the traffic around you, and then how are you going to maintain and operate a building. So all of our stadiums are on track or have already achieved Gsa certification for design. We also have a separate certification for construction management, and construction, as you can imagine, is a big part of the work that's happened here. And we're happy to say that we're also on track with making sure we're constructing sustainably. We also have the certification for our office towers, so the building that we work in. I mean, not the homes where we are now, given our current status of remote working, but the office that we work in is also Gsa certified. It's one of the first ones in the country. And then we've also done, in terms of sustainable building, a large amount of knowledge sharing and awareness raising and capacity building. And what this looked like for our program is that all of the consultants and the contractors that worked on our stadiums, we were able to get them into a meeting once a month, and each stadium would present its findings for that month, or its challenges for that month, or its best practices for that month. And we were able to develop a wide list, actually, of all the best practices that each of our stadiums used, and able to teach each other or advise each other, or perhaps whichever stadium went first would sharpen its teeth, and then the stadiums following would learn from their experiences. And I think this is one of the things that we've done very well. We have now a much wider knowledge base in the country of high standards for required from clients like ourselves for construction, for materials, for design, for anything that's related to building sustainably. Next slide, please, Orjan. Air quality is a key issue around the world and also in the country. What we notice is that if you are going to make such big structures like the stadiums, you also want to be careful that you're not going to contribute to air quality in a country that you live in. So for us, that looked like intensive dust management on site, and a lot of knowledge building also about that. We've recently published a report with our partners, GORD, on the best practices that we used to manage dust on site. Our dust management also looked like measurements. We have so many measurements, very regular measurements of the dust and the noise that we have on our sites. In that way, we're making sure that we don't exceed any regulatory requirements for the air quality conditions that are around our stadiums. Another component of air quality is having a lot of green space, because if you have a lot of green space, what that does is kind of absorbs the air pollution in the air. And so if you live nearer to a green space, you have less air pollution exposure. We have extensive green spaces around our stadiums, and we've participated with different organizations around the country as well to develop parks and spaces. And we've also developed a whole nursery that has almost hundreds of thousands of trees that have either been transported there or brought back to our sites, or are growing there for use on our sites, and promoting more green space. Waste generation, my absolute favorite. And I know that makes me sound like an environmental person, but waste is a huge issue when you're constructing large stadiums. But we've been very lucky to have very strict guidelines on challenging our consultants, our contractors, our designers, all to be able to minimize the waste that goes to a landfill that's coming out of our construction sites. Soon there'll be a report being published, and the numbers and the excitement will happen there. So I don't want to burst any of the bubbles, but I'm happy to say that we've got something between, for each stadium, we've between 70 to 90% of the waste that would have otherwise gone to a landfill, we've been able to divert from a landfill. And that is a significant amount of waste. We're talking millions of tons here. And we've been very lucky to have such involved and enthusiastic partners to be able to make this happen on our site. I mean, it did come with a little bit of a carrot and a stick situation, but we've been able to push as much as we can. We've been able to identify new areas of waste recycling and waste reuse. We've had our teams between the stadiums share with each other good practices and good connections, and we've been able to do a significant amount of recycling. Our next challenge, of course, is to make sure that we are avoiding as much waste to landfill as we can during operations. And the last two large events that we had here in Qatar are our football family events. We had recycling within the stadium, we had recycling within the workforce tents, We had composting on site, we had plastic segregation. There was all sorts of really good, good activities and habits that we've started to form in our events that we have when we come up to the World Cup, that it's a much smoother system and that works very well. In our, sorry, just wanted to, one more thing. In our office tower, we also have a lot of recycling facilities within the office tower because there's a lot of waste that we generate every day in the work that we do. And this calls for good partnership with the organizations that you have around you and in the recycling market to be able to find the right places for your recycling to go into. And of course, the operational plans of what happens in the stadiums once they start functioning is something that we're testing at the moment. Another key issue in the country is water. When you live in a desert, water is very, very special. And so it's very important to be able to preserve it as much as we can. And so what that looks like is trying to avoid as much waste as we can. And so this is as simple as having efficient taps, as simple as having aerators on taps. The key thing is that this was very important during the design and very early in the design of the stadium so that it's not an add-on issue that we're doing closer to a tournament date, but something that was throughout the system as well. We've got extensive use of recycled water in irrigation and dust suppression on site. And we've even had situations where we're dewatering on site, treating it, and then using the water again to avoid dust coming out from the construction activities. So there's a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and a lot of work that's gone in all levels of teams to be able to make this a key achievement and success on our sites. And finally, but not least, is our commitment to have a carbon neutral tournament. And Shashi, I'll hand this over to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Talar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. On behalf of Supreme Committee and Josoor Institute, we would like to welcome you for this webinar. We are sitting today on 22nd of February, and just 3 days earlier, US has become party to Paris Agreement, and that is something which is very interesting for the market for climate change. But before going through what exactly we are doing for climate change, I just wanted to say a couple of things that climate change is one of the biggest topic for discussion for last 15 years, which is having one of the maximum impact how we are living as on today. But we from Supreme Committee and from the state of Qatar have recognized the impact of climate change for last 15 years or so. When we were preparing our bid document, we have considered the impact of climate change while building our stadiums, while preparing for this tournament. And from there, the bid book commitments, we have started our journey for the carbon neutrality or climate change. Orjan. Yeah, so before going through like the detailed about carbon neutrality, what we are planning to do from Supreme Committee, we have always thought of that what will happen when the climate change will happen. The sea level rise will be there. There would be a lot of hotter days, hotter months. So while we have started designing for our stadium, we did a detailed climate modeling that what is going to happen in next 100 years in Qatar environment, and all our designs have been considered, like they have considered all the climate adaptation measures. Like for example, our stadiums are having a dedicated height from sea level, then the stadiums are having cooling systems, the power systems are using the solar power. So there has been a lot of inputs from the climate related adaptation aspects in our designing of all the stadiums. When we have designed all the infrastructure, then we have started parallelly working on that, how we can mitigate our impact, ecological impact of this tournament. And then like we have started working on the carbon neutrality. There may be some colleagues, some participants in the webinar here who may not be very much familiar about what is this carbon neutrality, which we keeps on talking, and a lot of people keeps on talking. So for us and for most of the people, carbon neutrality refers to achieving net zero carbon dioxide emissions by balancing the carbon dioxide emissions with removals or offset. So when we have got the rights to host this FIFA World Cup, from that day we have started counting. So we are monitoring all our carbon emissions, which are happening from 2011. In April 2011, the Supreme Committee have came into the existence, and we have started monitoring and counting all our carbon. So in right-hand side, you can see that blue color, which is showing that how much is our carbon footprint. But one, we were counting, and then we were trying to find out the projects which can reduce the carbon emissions from the environment. And then we have also started getting certain projects, certain offset projects, which were reducing the carbon emission. So one way in the construction, we were emitting the carbon dioxide, and we were already contracting some projects, we were reducing the carbon dioxide. So you can see this green color line, which is showing you that our carbon neutrality line, which is demonstrating that when we were going to go negative, and in 2022, we are hoping to be positive, that we have already got the plan, and we are very much sticking to that plan. Orjan. Orjan, put 3-4 times. Can you please put enter? Yeah, so for the carbon neutrality of the World Cup, we have got this 5-step model. As every time in any management presentation and any management, you always think about that how we can achieve certain objective. We need to have a proper planning, and this is what is our 5-step model, which we are working for last 8 years, that is helping us to achieve our carbon neutrality goal. So this is having first as raising awareness. This webinar is one of such sessions. In last year in November, we have had a similar session. And before that, when the Corona was not existence in this world, we were having a physical session every year. Having said this webinar is more carbon efficient. Actually, we are having 62 participants which are listening to us. We are saving maybe 85% of the emissions if we would have hosted you physically, maybe a bit more, but in terms of carbon, we are doing much better having this webinar. So we are doing training, workshop, and webinars. We are finding the partners. Parallelly, as I told you in the previous slide, we are having our carbon inventory. This is a FIFA appointed consultant. Those are preparing our carbon inventory studies. And we have almost finished this activity, and we are having the numbers, which is estimated at this point in time is more than 3 million tons of the CO2, which is estimated that we would be emitting from this hosting this tournament. And that would be fine-tuned or finalized after the World Cup is over, but this is what is the number which we are working towards. After getting the inventory, then we are having a projects where we can reduce our impact. So we are having many mitigation projects, the projects which can reduce the emissions. Dr. Talar has already explained to you efficient stadiums. Orjan was talking to you that we are hosting a tournament in one city. These are all helping us to be less carbon tournament. Then there is already Doha Metro is there. Then there are a lot of initiatives coming from the electric buses. We are also working on some efficient, innovative solutions for last mile. Those are going to reduce our carbon footprint. We are having a tree nursery that is also going to reduce our footprint. In next slide, I would be giving you a bit more projects which in Supreme Committee, which we are doing to reduce our carbon footprint. Then interesting, actually, like after doing this much mitigation, also we cannot be carbon neutral, because end of the day, this is one event, and we are preparing a lot to welcome you, where you can have the grand party with football. So there would be having some additional emissions as well that we need to offset. And for those, we are having high quality local and international projects by which we would be offsetting those credits. And the last is the carbon legacy. And this is the unique thing which we are doing. The first 4 steps, almost all the programs would be doing, but this is something which is very unique. The interesting thing is you might have noticed who are in Qatar or like internationally, Qatar has been part of the climate negotiations very early on in the Kyoto Protocol, but Qatar has never got benefited from the Kyoto mechanism. Only 2 projects have been registered in Qatar, but Qatar as a country is doing a lot of projects in renewable energy and energy efficiency. There is a lot is happening, but somehow it is not being realized. And this is where we have thought of to start something which can help local projects which are reducing the emissions. They can continue do this emission reduction projects after the tournament. So we have collaborated with the Ministry of Municipality and Environment to find the projects in Qatar and support the projects in Qatar, which can, the offsets from those projects can be used for tournament, but after the tournament, these projects are having the positive impact in the environment after the tournament is over. Parallelly, in similar lines, we have supported a development of local offsetting scheme that is called Global Carbon Council. And this scheme is also finding the projects local and international, which is having meeting the requirements for the standards, international standards, and then they are also promoting the projects which can come online towards offsetting the tournament. But the most important is the legacy after the tournament. The project which would be providing the offset for the tournament that would be working towards its lifetime, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. So this is one unique thing which the program for this FIFA World Cup 2022 is specifically in Qatar. Not only we are being carbon neutral as a tournament, but towards our actions, we are going to leave a less carbon legacy for the country and for the region and for the world as well. So yeah, Orjan, next slide, please. As I have touched a bit about mitigation in the previous slides, we are implementing the best practices during stadium construction, which is helping to reduce the emissions as well. Based on our estimation that our stadiums are reducing 25 to 30% of the carbon with respect to the conventional stadium, which would have been built because of our efficient design for lower energy and water consumption. We are having minimum 15% reused material, which is used in the stadium construction. As Dr. Talar mentioned, we are having efficient waste management strategies. All the stadiums are following Gsa certification, which is helping us doing emission reductions during the construction and operations. There is one unique point which I wanted to bring in your attention, that Gsa's scheme also does the calculation in the energy that how much is the carbon dioxide which we are reducing based on the construction, the efficient construction which we are doing with this Gsa's process. So that is also, you can see your impact of carbon during the design as well. So that is one unique thing which is being done with the system which we are implementing in the stadium. Apart from this, you might have already read in the news as well that we are promoting a lot of use of renewable energy. The Qatari state organizations which are implementing a big solar project, which is 700 to 800 megawatt Siraj 1, that is being implemented, and we have been part of that project since conceptualization of the project. In the stadiums also, we are implementing the renewable energy where it is effective, where it is going to be used consistently. We are implementing the renewable energy, mostly solar energy. We are planning to use very highly efficient generators where there is a use for the temporary power. Our preferred option is we can take the grid power wherever there is a possibility, but if there is a more GHG emissions, by constructing a dedicated line from the transformers, in those cases where the generators are being used, we are making sure that we are using very efficient generators. There is a very unique sustainable procurement system which we have put in place that is minimizing the embodied carbon in the materials. And I would also encourage you that you visit our website, Qatar 2022/sustainability, and have a look in our sustainable procurement, which we are having a guidelines which is available. And I also encourage that you also start using these type of systems to have a very positive impact on the environment. Then we are having a public and shared transportation. That is a big strategy on transportation. The full team is dedicated working on increasing the percentage of electric vehicle in the transportation in 2022. As a state level, Qatar level efforts are there that by 2030, 100% public transportation is going to be electric. And this is with the tournament is going to instigate these changes. And we are also quite working with the authorities where we can have a greater percentage of the transportation by electric during 2022. We are also exploring low emission vehicles for the tournament, maybe EV cars, which has already started coming in Qatar now, and maybe some other transportation medium can be e-bike, e-scooter, and then there are a lot of options which we are considering where we can reduce our impacts. And final is the development of tree and turf nursery. And just to let you know that for estimation of the carbon emissions in the nursery, we are working with our partners in the Qatar University and the consultant KEO, where we are working to publish this type of report, where the cities and people and companies in Qatar and nearby areas, they can see the impacts of tree plantation, that how much is the impact which is having in the environment, as well as what else it can do, how it can reduce the heating impact, how it can reduce the climate change impact. And this is offset, like after doing the mitigation, which I have told you about offset, there is a future schemes as well, which we are working on in legacy. For some people who are not aware about offsets are emission reduction that have been achieved outside the boundary. So like whatever we are doing in our operations that I have talked in mitigation, but there are certain things which we cannot do. Like we want people to come here, so we cannot avoid international transportation. So for these type of activities where we cannot have any impact, we would be buying high quality offsets. So the remaining carbon emission will be offsetted by good quality projects. One such project is Siraj Power, which I have explained is 700 megawatt solar photovoltaic project. But apart from this, we are discussing with the other our stakeholder, Qatar Petroleum, Kahrama, Ashkal, Doha Metro, and all other companies where we are identifying the projects. The preferred offset projects for us would be a Qatar-based project because we are doing the emissions in Qatar, and if we can get a project which are like reducing the emissions in Qatar, then maths is relatively simple. But knowing that climate change is happening across the globe, so you reduce here in Qatar or you reduce somewhere in Nepal or somewhere in Nigeria, the impact is same. So this is why where we would not be able to get the Qatar projects, we would be buying from the international project. We have supported the establishment of Global Carbon Council to identify good quality projects in Qatar and region. And now this Global Carbon Council has already received interest from 5 different projects, and many projects are in the pipeline. So this is also, we are seeing that before the tournament finishes, the legacy of the tournament is started already. So there are projects which are registered with GCC, and then they would be helping to offset the emissions in the tournament. But after the tournament as well, like these projects would be continuing. And we, as always, we are continuously looking for high quality emission reduction projects, specifically in Qatar. But if you are having, apart from Qatar, also from somewhere, we are very much looking forward to receive your interest in these type of projects. And with the support from the local companies, local authorities here, and with the support from our international well-wishers and the climate community, we are quite sure that we would be having a wonderful carbon neutral tournament where the people who are coming for the sports can enjoy the sports. You can enjoy the hospitality in Qatar, but you will be having the minimal impact on the environment. And for climate change, very specifically, we are considering that we would be having a positive impact on climate change after the tournament. And Mr. Orjan has already shown you this slide to some extent, but this is also, we are very much encouraging you that in this 30 minutes or 35 minutes, we have given you the very high level overview, but there is a lot more available in our website, which is qatar2022.qa/sustainability, where you can go through the documents. But moreover, in this full process, we also wanted to tell you that we want to be the transparent. Whatever we are doing, whatever we have written, we want to update you every year. And we want to publish, like very soon, you would be receiving our carbon inventory report, which should be published before 31st March. Then we would be coming back to us, hopefully, that how we have offset the construction emissions. Then like towards tournament, we would be communicating to you that which type of projects which we have used for the carbon neutrality. So in this full process, you would be seeing the transparency from our operations and whatever is the plan and what we are delivering. And you would be able to get all this information in this website. And with this, I would like to thank you again for your time spending with us, and we are open for any questions which you may have.
Thank you, Shashi. Thank you, Orjan. Thank you, Dr. Talar. Thank you for sharing this insight, generally high level, but of course, it can go deeper as you mentioned. We have a few questions related to sustainability, and then I will also take care of a few questions related to a bit from a generic point. First question, what are the challenges in establishing the current baseline and deciding the KPIs? Please, any one of you, feel free to come forward and provide some vision on that.
Sure, why not? There is a challenge, of course, but with the challenge, there's also an opportunity, I suppose, you know. But we did extensive research on what has happened in previous events, of course. That's where you will start looking, what are your peers doing? And then we also started looking at statistics and data within the country. So if I give a concrete example, we were looking at waste recycling figures from Russia World Cup, and we were looking at waste recycling figures in the country and current status. And through that, we could start talking about setting some goals and targets for ourselves. And you know, with a KPI, and it needs to be something that is measurable and something that you can actually report on. So it's a little bit depending on what data you have available as well. What we have tried to do is to have KPIs, several KPIs against each and every sustainability objective and initiative throughout the strategy. At the moment, many of these KPIs are being reported on in our progress report. And as we build out our progress report over the next few years, there will be more reporting against KPIs in that. Finally, there will be a sustainability report in 2023 that will go through what happened throughout the whole preparations and the event itself. And FIFA has done this for the previous World Cups as well, in Russia, in Brazil, in South Africa, and in Germany, I believe, if you go back most recent World Cups, and also for the Women's World Cup now, for the two most recent editions. And it includes tons of KPIs and tons of data. And there is actually a standard that you can follow to set up your KPIs, which is called the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative Standard, and we will follow that one as well. So I guess that's in a nutshell how we are approaching it.
Thank you, Orjan. I'd like to move to the second question, maybe directed to you, Dr. Talar, around waste. So you mentioned the stadiums and how waste management is being taken care of. Is there enough work being done to companies who are interested in the tournament, they're supporting the event, and are they being held responsible or accountable for these?
So that's a great question. And thanks, Brad, for bringing that up. And so we had talked about the standards and the reports and the kind of best practice that we'd done on site. But also it isn't enough just to do what we're doing on site. And so it's very important to be able to find a way so that everyone who's also bringing things into the stadium or bringing things into the country or to any of the event locations that we're going to have come tournament time are also held responsible. And so a large part of that has come on a big piece of work that was done for the Sustainable Procurement Code that Shashi had mentioned. That's also available on our website. That is also part of all the contracts and tenders that are now let out. And so we encourage all of our, any of the people who participate in any of the procurements that we have upcoming, there is a part within there what sustainability goals they should achieve. Waste is a big one of those. And the more that we see people doing it, the better of a market it becomes. So I think, yes, we are keeping them. Could we keep them more responsible? Yes, perhaps. But this is in the way that Orjan put it, in challenges and opportunities, right? It's a challenge and it's an opportunity for us to include that in the overall sustainability goals.
Thank you, Dr. Talar. Another question on light pollution. What are the control measures implemented to reduce the light pollution, meaning excessive, misdirected, or obtrusive artificial light?
Who'd like to take that one?
This is a very interesting topic, actually. I mean, during the construction, we had, this is a problem during construction, and I guess it is a problem during the events itself. It's more of a problem during construction because that is a longer period of time. And when you have an event, you sort of switch on the lights and switch them off again. So it might not be as much of a problem during that particular time because it's a bit shorter. During construction, we mentioned the Gsa certification system, where there are specific criteria for how to manage light pollution on sites during construction. The idea is to actually only have light where you need to have light. Obviously, you need to have light to have safe working conditions on construction sites. And you don't need to have lights to be blasting into your neighbor's living room, etc., or up to disturb the night sky and bird life, etc., etc. So during construction, we were working closely with GSAS and all their inspections to meet these requirements. There's a specific standard called GSAS Construction Management that has very detailed requirements around this that we were following, and we have received actually the highest possible rating from that system on all the construction sites. So we were managing that light pollution at that time. During the events themselves, we will go into detail on this as we start with the big events. But at the moment, the matches that we have had, I know there's some light coming out of the stadiums, but it's for quite a controlled period of time. Also, one particular feature of all the stadiums is that we are using LED lights. We don't have the big traditional stadium tower lights. So with the LED lights, you can actually sort of switch them on and they're on immediately. I'm not sure if you remember the old stadium lights. You need to sort of warm them up for a few hours. So this might also help a little bit in that aspect.
Thank you, Orjan. Maybe in between those lines about policy making. So what work has been done in terms of nudging the policy in Qatar towards sustainable and public infrastructure?
That's very interesting, actually. Like, probably I will start and my colleagues will put in. So again, this is something first time which Supreme Committee has tried this nudge. There has been a nudge unit which is working with us for last 5 years. There has been a lot of development. So what we did, I can give you a couple of examples. That we wanted to have a good case studies from various stadiums. So we have used this nudge principle, and we have got involved with the nudge team, where we have provided certain nudges to other sustainability managers. We have had some meetings. We were having some knowledge sharing sessions, and where they can submit more case studies. So we have seen a multi-fold increase in the case studies after applying through this nudge system. Parallelly, this nudge unit has done some like different projects in the waste management as well. Just to give you an example, that previous Amir Cup, which has happened in December 2020, they have also implemented the waste nudge, where you are having the stickers, which is giving you a nudge that you need to segregate the waste at the dedicated locations. So there has been a lot of development in the nudge, which is itself is a new behavioral science. But like SC is consistently using and harnessing the power of nudge in the development of the new policies, in development of the new initiatives, actually, which we are working on. Maybe Orjan would be having some more to add on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite specific in terms of the nudge unit themselves. I think there was also some part to this question that was about sustainable stadiums and public infrastructure in general. I mean, we have done quite a bit of work on the stadiums to make them as sustainable as possible. We were fortunate enough to sort of inherit quite a lot of sustainability manager from the Qatar project, who had done great work as well. And now many of these guys and girls are moving on to other projects in Lusail or with Ashgal or something like that. And through the knowledge sharing and capacity building program that we had there, we believe that is actually pushing on to deliver more sustainable public spaces as well. And just only recently, we've actually been hosting delegations from Ashgal onto our stadium sites to show them how we are doing and how we are delivering sustainable stadiums. So that is like a concrete example for how to help in that kind of direction to share with our peers and our friends what we have been doing. And some of it might be applicable to what they're doing, and some of it might not. But I think most people that left from that session had at least one or two ideas that they could bring over to their site and do something about it there. Dr. Talar also mentioned that we have published already a very detailed document about how to manage dust on sites. We are getting a equally detailed document coming out the next couple of months about how to segregate and manage waste on site for construction. So we're doing some of these things to try to help creating more sustainable public infrastructure, in particular in the country and beyond. But nudge is a very interesting topic that perhaps Josoor could have a session on at some point as well.
Nicely done there, Orjan. Slipped it in.
Let's move to the most inevitable question. How has the current COVID-19 affected and implicated the current sustainable strategy?
I would say positively impacted to us, because though we have been very much sustainability focused, but this has also given a lot more thought process for people. So people are becoming much more aware. There is a more support which we are getting. We are improving, though we have had best practices available for hygiene, for air quality, but there is a more actually, we are improving our earlier standards as well. And we are work on the work front, there is a delivery of the stadium, delivery of all the KPIs which we have had. So there is no delay on that side. So for sustainability per se, I would say that it is better for carbon neutrality also. Due to COVID, there is a less transportation, there is less flight, so that is also adding. So in net, actually, this is what I will say, that for sustainability, that has been positive for the time being.
I think there is, pros and cons. Actually, in general, the pandemic is mainly cons. It's not a good situation at all, and we don't like it. And we wanted to finish as quickly as possible. But I think what Shashi mentioned, and what we have seen scientifically as well, is that due to the stoppage of many activities, global carbon emissions might have reduced slightly. And also, we saw research coming out of Qatar in the springtime last year, where local air pollution was significantly better when everybody started working from home, and some of the main activities were stopped as well. There was massive slump massive improvement, I should say, in the local air quality. What we have seen, though, as you might know, in our two most recent events, we were not able to have full capacity in the stadiums, which is a true shame. I mean, this is why we built the big stadiums, to be able to fill them and to have amazing experience in there with lots of friends and family and football fans. But we have also seen I'd say a bit of an increase in the use of single-use plastics as because of this pandemic. There is more restrictions on how certain things were packaged, etc., etc. So in terms of our sustainability strategy and the goals and the objectives that we have had in there, We have not made any changes due to the pandemic yet, but we have scheduled in our diaries to sit over the next couple of weeks to really go through that in detail and see if there's some adjustments that we need to make to the sustainability strategy in the next quarter or 6 months, so that we can perhaps roll out some new program for the World Cup that is not in the strategy as of yet. I mean, it's a massive change to the operating environment of everybody.
That's right, and we've actually been lucky. We've been fortunate to have a few test events to be able to test during and post the pandemic, and so I think that's taught a lot of us on what we need to take care of, what we can change a little bit, and what new opportunities are available. We always want to be positive and proactive, but in some situations it's difficult. And so we are talking about, locations for taking masks or being able to take care of them hygienically, or how you are going to change that into your waste management and recycling. So it's about being flexible. After all events, you have to be quick on your feet and be able to find a solution to the issues that you are at hand. But this is the reason why we have so many test events, so that we can all get to where we need to in time for the World Cup. Good question, though.
Thank you. Not me.
The person who's asking.
We have a question from Jordan. Qatar hosting the most important event in the world. How would neighboring countries benefit from the sustainable strategy? I believe that's a nice question. You have your thinking hat.
Dr.
I'm happy to start. I mean, the World Cup, I think the messages from our top management has been since day one. This is the World Cup of the Arab world. This is the first time it's in the Middle East. It's not necessarily the Qatar World Cup, it's the Arab World Cup, Arab World Cup. And we have seen through our volunteering program, for example, lots of participation from around the region. And that has been really quite nice, I think. And I think you're most welcome to join that program. And obviously, we hope to see you here as a football fan in the World Cup in 2022. I think the other interesting program that we had a couple of years back was something that we called Challenge 22, which was part of our initiatives under the economic pillar, where we were trying to drive innovation and identify innovative solutions to some of our big problems that we had for the World Cup. And during that program, we did road shows where we went through to most Arab countries and worked with many of the universities to present our challenges and to work with innovators and entrepreneurs to come up with solutions to these. And then we had a competition, and the best ones won. And then there was a prize, and there was also an opportunity to be incubated and prototyped and being used at the World Cup. And we have a couple of examples of winners who came from neighboring countries, and which is now in prototype stage, and will most likely be used during the World Cup in one way or another. And again, on our website, there is a bit more information about those particular projects that are at that stage at the moment. And maybe you can help me, Talar and Shashi, but I can't remember if there is a project from Jordan necessarily, but maybe there is. I know there's one from Egypt.
There is from Jordan. Yeah, so just to add what Orjan has said, that since the starting of the construction, there has been various contractor, various companies, the regional companies, which has worked in the stadiums and various other activities for the preparation, including the Challenge 22. There has been our development, which we have done. There is a Generation Amazing pitch for the pitch for football, actually, for the less the people actually who do not have these type of infrastructure. So it's not only Jordan, but there are various countries which we are having our reach through Generation Amazing, where we have provided the sports infrastructure. And then there are a lot of opportunities which would be coming from now till the hosting of the tournament, where everyone internationally is encouraged to participate. And if you are having something very unique technology, and if there is some innovation which we can use in the sustainability strategy, we are always open to receive this type of ideas and then take to our senior management and take decision in these cases. So as I said in the start, that we are quite open. If there is something in the remit of this sustainability strategy, which is making the life beautiful, making the processes beautiful, we are very much looking forward receiving these type of information and seeing that we can implement it in one of the stadium or during the tournament.
I think also very briefly, I'd like to add that actually our partnership and our work that we do with the Josoor Institute is one of the key ways that we're sharing all the information and the experience that we have through their network, through our network, also with various stakeholders that we hold and have various events with. GORD, as we discussed earlier, is one of our stakeholders for the certification standard, as well as the Qatar Green Building Council. And so we try to have as many knowledge sharing or open events, as my teammates have talked about. There is nothing secret in what we're doing. We're very open about talking about our success and failure as well, and also being able to share the learning from all of the knowledge that's been built within the groups of people that have been involved with it. So Josoor has been a great key for that in making regional awareness and education as well.
Thank you, everyone. I believe we've reached towards the end of the session. There were a few questions about volunteering. So I just want to say, yes, you can be a volunteer and join the organization. We have shared through the Qatar22.qa, or you can just type in Qatar22 with volunteer next to it, and then it will just direct you to the page. You can be a volunteer, and you don't need to be residing in the country. You can actually be a volunteer from outside. Of course, pending that you would take care of your travel. And of course, once the measures are a bit less focused on safety and security. A few questions about how to contact us. So Josoor Institute would highly be able to service you in that query. We have shared, or maybe you can use info@josoorinstitute.qa and then send your queries on email, and we will direct to the appropriate departments. With that, I thank you all. I thank you for your time. And I'd just like to say Josoor Institute is always wanting to contribute and support in all the works done with the sustainability department, with our colleagues and friends, and of course, to continue the collaboration with the Qatari mission in New York. Thank you everyone for your time, and have a great day ahead.